Hello and welcome back. A few weeks ago, Raphael and I looked at how to use GitHub-hosted runners on CodeBuild, and we were very lucky that a few weeks ago, AWS also announced that this is now available on GitLab. Raphael, welcome back.
Welcome, Johannes. Thank you for having me on your show.
Once again, you are always coming back. I don't know why, but I love it. And today we're going to look at this announcement together, and we're going to try to set this up. So on 17th of September, when we had our community day, I think it was a day before that, the AWS team announced that we can now have GitLab runners hosted on CodeBuild. And this might be interesting because then you get some connectivity to your own VPCs. You can use IAM roles and permissions for your deployments and all of that kind of stuff. So we thought we're going to tear that apart today. And in the video today, we're going to set this up initially manually and then look at how successful we are with that. So I tried to prepare a bit. So I'm going to try to help you to set this up. And I would suggest, without further ado, we just get it going, right? So let's look at the documentation and let's see how far we get.
Sure. So bring me up the documentation, how to get started with the setup of the GitLab runners. So in the announcement, there was a tutorial linked, I think, directly showing how to set up the GitLab hosted runners on AWS CodeBuild for GitLab. So let's get started. So first of all, it says, okay, this tutorial shows you how to configure CodeBuild projects, run GitLab CI, CAD jobs. And first of all, we need to connect GitLab with AWS.
So as a prerequisite for this, I think we have already set up a GitLab.com account for us to test this out, which is a free account initially. And we have also set up an AWS account that we can use to test this out. And I think those were the two prerequisites that we had before going into this tutorial. So right. I think let's start with the first step. So the way that I did that, so if you stick it to the top, I think we need to start setting up the connection to GitLab.
Yes.
Or did you already do that?
No, I didn't do that. I have a freshly AWS account without any connections to GitLab.
Okay, then let's go to the developer tools in the console first. There should be, I think on the settings side, on the left-hand side, if you go to the bottom, there should be a connections thing somewhere. Yes, that's one. Okay, we're going to go there, and we are going to create a connection to GitLab.
Bitbucket, GitHub, GitHub Enterprise, GitLab, there it is. And we're not using the self-managed, we're using the hosted one on gitlab.com.
Yes.
Okay, connection name is CI/CD Johannes. And we don't need tags for now, and just connect to GitLab. So it's now directed me to the gitlab.com page. On the authorization page, I'm already logged in gitlab.com, so I don't have to re-log in again. So it asks for permission to connect GitHub with the GitLab project. So I authorized AWS connector for GitLab to talk to AWS. And let's click connect again. And we are done. So we have a CodeStar connection or a connection between AWS and GitLab now.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
So we're done with that. And what's next? Well, next is the step to create a CodeBuild project, because in the same way that the GitHub hosted runners are using a CodeBuild project, the GitLab runners work in the same way. So this means we need to go to the CodeBuild console. We're going to need to create a project over there and configure some of the settings.
So I'm going to build.
Before we go there, good question. Before we go there, do you already have a project set up in GitLab?
No, I haven't. It's a freshly created GitLab account. So we should create a project first?
I think we need a project. Otherwise, we're going to not be able to connect this to a source. So,
okay, create a project from template, maybe to have some simple Node.js Express. I don't know.
And I thought you're going to do a Java Spring Boot application now for me.
Next time, maybe. And is CI cd.
Oh,
Oh,
that was wrong because I don't know what you did, but you weren't in the right place. That is an interesting reaction of GitLab.
oh, I cannot edit it, and
Yeah,
so I went
the
when
project
I
name.
click the backspace, then
Yeah. Ah, got it. Okay, got it.
CI CD Express.
And GitLab.com is free for private projects, but as soon as you go with public projects, you're gonna need to get a subscription.
So let's use the private visibility and create a project, right?
Yes.
So it's importing some stuff. So probably the code artifacts. So we have a fully running Node.js application. That's looking good. It also has a Docker file, so it assumes probably to run in Docker.
Maybe. And I think
Okay.
that's not important for us today. We really just want to see that the code build runners come up, right? Okay, so now let's go back to creating the code build project. So to be honest, I don't know where you ended up over there, but maybe we go to get started and create a project.
All right. So CI CD GitLab Johannes. So do we need some add extra
Yes,
configurations?
unfortunately, yes, right. And this is also where when I tried this out, I struggled a little bit. So here we need to add a source, and the source is going to be the GitLab provider. So can you show that again? Now, this is the first thing that kind of makes me a little bit nervous when looking at this. Nervous from a usability perspective, right? Setting up a connection is only possible for GitHub Bitbucket, GitHub Enterprise, GitLab, and GitLab Self-Managed, right? But here, as a source provider, I can now use code commit, which is deprecated. I can also use S3, right? So it would make rather sense to move that to the connections piece. But let's go with GitLab because that's what we want to try. And then we're going to need to now manage the default credentials. So just click on that once, select the connection over there, down there in the connection thing, right? Exactly. So this is a little bit bumpy when setting this up. Now it's going to be able to recover your repository. So now you can select the repository that we just created. And now this is the key thing. It requires you to set up a webhook, even if you're not going to use that kind of, right? So that was a little bit strange when I did this. So please select that. And now we need to add a filter. And the filter needs to go to workflow jobs queued. So over there, it needs to go in that one. Yeah. So that means that essentially it's only going to trigger if a pipeline is started.
So I think that makes sense because the connection between GitLab and AWS is managed through webhooks. So GitLab is sending out webhook notifications to AWS, and probably this one is the only one that is relevant. So we need to set up a filter to only trigger builds based on this job queue that is initially triggered by GitLab.
Yeah. Looking from it from that perspective, it makes sense. As I forgot that when I tried this, it didn't work, right? And I didn't understand that because essentially on the GitLab side, it then had just stuck pipelines, right? Which makes sense, obviously, but that was one mistake I made,
I
and
think
because
that's the nature of running runners, that they spin up a job on GitLab side, and then they are waiting for someone to pick up the job. And since you are not having a full time running runner on the AWS side now, it's basically spun up whenever there's a new job. So we need to notify AWS somehow. Let's start a new runner for this job.
yes, and that's 100% correct. But if you go back to the documentation, the tutorial that we looked at, the documentation points that now you need to set up your self-managed runners in GitLab. So it took me like 15 minutes because I was trying to configure the self-managed runners in GitLab, and I don't need to do that for this integration. So it's way simpler than this is actually telling you. But we're gonna get there, right? So, but that was my confusion that I faced. So let's, I think, this is everything that we need to do, right? Obviously, now I would have the possibility to go with managed with custom images if I want to. I can also use a reserved fleet for CodeBuild, so I get all of the sneaky integration patterns that I can do with CodeBuild, which is pretty cool. And I obviously also get Lambda as we want to record a short video. Let's go with Lambda, right? Because that really changes the
But is this the default option, or can it be overwritten by the parameters in my GitLab file? I think I saw something in the tutorial that you can manage that through tags, but we come to that later.
Yes, you can then override that if you want to. That's correct.
Okay. So creating a
In
new
the same way
service.
that we did that in GitHub runners, right? You can also
Yeah.
override that. So the feature works in the same way.
So this is the nice feature now that you have a runner running in the AWS directly, you can assign a service role, so it can assume talk to other AWS services directly and don't have additional authentication for the runner built in.
So exactly, you don't need any AWS credentials on the GitLab side if you want to interact with the AWS infrastructure that you have. Cool. The build spec, we can actually ignore that, right? Because we're going to pass the build spec as part of our CI job that we define on the GitLab side. So for me, that meant we can just jump ahead and just create, and there is nothing else that we need to do on the AWS side.
Cool. So let AWS create a build job. Yeah, we got a build job.
And now we need to take a note of the project name that we used over here.
I got an error message. Do I have to do something?
Try that. Let's look at. No, let's go to. Can you go back for? Go to project details, please. Over there's a tab down there. And now scroll down. No, the source is what I was looking at.
Let's try it. Maybe it's.
We will see that. So if you go to GitLab now, we can look at the webhooks page. So if you go to the project, and then there is a settings and webhooks, and we can see if the webhook has been created or not. And it looks like it has not been created. So let's try that again, because otherwise it would not work, right? So we need that webhook to be created. You can do that by editing the source tab over here. And then no, that error message doesn't go away. That's the problem. Okay.
Oh, where?
Stop. There was something wrong.
Yeah.
There was the rebuild was not set correctly.
Not project, it was source.
Source, yes.
Whenever a job is queued, and try to update the source again. Go back to this one.
Now it at least says it's done. So
now there's a GitHub.
I can't see it yet. Okay, now cool. Yeah.
Maybe we should redact that or delete it after recording.
Funny enough, this happened to me as well. I had the same issue, right? That I needed to set up the webhook twice. Okay.
So now we have our webhook.
Yes, and now what this project, that example project that we just created, does not have is a GitLab CI YAML, right? So I would propose that in order to get ourselves started, we're just going to copy paste the example that is available over there in the tutorial. So let's create a new file. You can do that by clicking on the plus up there in GitLab. And then we're going to copy paste in the stuff that we have over there. Exactly. No, there's the plus besides the CI/CD / Johannes. There's a plus. And there you can new file. And you need to put in the name, which is .gitlab -ci.yaml.
And then the example from...
Yeah, that's the easiest way of getting this to done, right? So essentially, by setting up the tags, you essentially make sure that this is then picking up the code build. So it needs to start with code build, and now my project needs to be replaced by the project name that we had set.
That one?
Yes.
So
And
code
I
build,
think
my project.
Yes. Okay. So now, besides doing, but just wait before you go. Besides doing Echo World, let's do an AWS LSS3 as a second afterwards, please.
I don't think we have permissions right now, but
That's exactly what I want to show.
all right.
Okay. So now, if we do commit changes, it should actually directly start our code build.
Sorry for the spoiler.
Let's
see.
to show
We
everyone
have
that we don't have a script, right?
Yeah, we have a commit on master. They should rename that. And so we should see some pipeline running in GitLab, right?
Go to build on the left-hand side and then pipelines.
Pipelines.
And hopefully
it failed. That is
because
somehow expected, depending on what's the result.
No. Just go back. You're too fast. Go back to the initial thing. Go to pipelines. And now, please read the big error message on the top.
When asking marketing purpose verify. Oh.
So we did not set up the GitLab account properly, which is okay.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Please redact it afterwards.
Now, if you're looking for a new friend in Germany, please use this phone number and directly call him. I will need to remove the phone number but keep the what the fuck, because this was pretty interesting. This puzzling is it takes you need to solve 4 of those puzzles. So this is really doing CAPTCHA as its best, right? You need to use your arrow keys to change to the next picture until stop. There you have, just need to go back. There you have 2 times the money sack. That's 3 times. That's bad. You need to find the picture where they have 2 times the money. Yes, this one. And you're gonna need to solve.
I need a tutorial how to solve a CAPTCHA.
4. Come on. Click submit. Then just no, that has 4.
That one has 2.
That
right?
one has 2. Now click submit. Yes. Now let's go to the next picture. Okay. This is gonna be a short, and this is gonna be the best short in on my channel.
That
Raphael
one,
solving a CAPTCHA.
Umbrella.
No. Yeah, it was right. Okay.
0 times the said YouTube logo. That one.
Yes. And we are doing a double human CAPTCHA here to ensure that this is all accurate.
Really a human. Yay, we did it.
Yes, we passed.
Oh God, we have a different problem.
Send code.
Yes. The problem is I'm using my camera as my phone as a camera. So actually, oh wait, maybe on a phone. Yeah, on the phone.
You're gonna get it on your watch, right? And by now, 573 people have called and dialed this number to talk to Raphael.
So can we simply now we are authenticated and verified and made sure that we are human.
Now, let's see. Can we restart this one?
Let's download, maybe click on the status. I don't.
Okay, so I'm gonna spoiler a little bit. We cannot restart this here, right? And even if it would not have helped us if we would have restarted this, because if you restart a failed job or a failed pipeline in GitLab, it doesn't re-trigger the webhook. That's what I tried yesterday because I did a similar mistake, so I was laughing.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a code change, and that will trigger the build again.
Okay, so let's go to our GitLab CI file, go on edit. I don't care where to edit it, how, unless I can edit it. That's the
Why
most
did you start
complex way.
Visual Studio Code? Why did you not just go edit in pipeline
Oh,
editor?
edit single file.
Oh, even that
Error.
is working. Yes. Just give the name a different. Okay, that's also good.
And submit.
Bim, bim, bim.
So,
And now let's go back to pipelines.
pending.
Pending. That's
Stuck.
bad. That's bad. That means we did something wrong.
Do we see some logs? One of the following problems are no active runners online, no runners protected branch, or no runners that match all project tags, CI/CD, Johannes. Oh,
Oh, now it worked.
so it's might taking such a delay. Okay,
Yeah, it worked.
yeah,
It
someone
worked.
picked
The
it
job
up.
run. So before we go into solving the challenge that we hit, let's look at the console.
So this console.
No, the AWS console. We want to see if we can see the same log files over there.
So let's go to build and
Build history, I would
project.
guess.
Build history. That's right. So actually, we have a couple of runs. Oh, that's old ones from GitHub. Sorry, the account was not clean. So this is our project
This is
now.
our new one. Yes, exactly. It
Yes.
has the submitter is the GitHub runner on the right hand side, and which should now be able to see the log files here as well.
So we have log files. They look similar. So it's basically set up the GitLab runner,
Mm-hmm.
downloading all the relevant stuff, installing GitHub runner, another setup stuff, and no, we don't see the
Oh
same logs.
no, that's
That's the same.
the same thing as in GitHub. Okay. Dear CodeBuild team, please listen to our feedback and make the execution log files available somewhere over here in the console as well.
Depending on it, I think it's depending on your perspective on the things. Normally, you should not manage the GitLab runners, and the runners are somehow managed by someone else, maybe, or at least you're not interested in that because you see all the logs in GitLab. So
But
I
I would,
can see
but,
that it makes sense because it also separates concerns, but maybe
but,
an option to
but
see the log files would be
or,
nice.
or, or maybe it's just a link here that sends me back to the GitLab log file that I need, which essentially they can do, right? So
Yeah,
just over there, instead of linking to the in the if you go down somewhere, there was a link, line number 46, right, that points to the Git repository. I would rather want to get the link to the log file where I can see that then at the end, if I ever need to do that. But I agree, it's also maybe not required at all. Okay, cool. That means it kind of worked, but I think we had an error, so we did not prove that we can read from S3 yet, because
yes.
our four eyes principle resulted in a wrong CLI command. So let's change that and let's make it an AWS S3 LS.
That's right. Repository.
And now, as Victor sometimes says, kids don't do this at home. Better check out the thing and work on it in your IDE, right? So don't use the edit button in your source control because you don't do linking all of that stuff, right? So it's really bad. So please check out the code if you want to try this, and then update from your IDE.
But let me quickly add another command before that. Maybe we see what role it actually is assumed right now.
Well, it would need to be the service role, right? I would assume.
It is get identity,
T.
right?
Yes, that's correct.
So that should work or at least not fail because otherwise, yeah, we should have some AWS credentials already if you have
That is
permissions to
correct.
S3 or not. So commit the change. And yeah. So that is also what I learned. It's AWS S3 LS is not a good option to check if you're logged into an AWS account. You should use STS get caller identity for that.
That is correct. Go to build and pipelines over there.
Pipelines.
No, you need to click on the left-hand side. That's the... Oh, it worked. Okay, interesting. That didn't work for me yesterday.
Okay, it failed again.
Okay.
We have an AWS role assumed, or we have credentials. Assumed role is CodeBuild GitLab Johannes service role. That's the one we configured in setting while we're setting up the build job. And we don't have permissions for S3 right now.
Yep. Well, cool. That's what we wanted to show at the end. And now we could be adding the permissions to that S3 role. We could rerun the job and we would see that this actually works. Fairly simple, isn't it?
Sure. Should we do it or?
I don't know. I don't think that there's much benefit from us updating an IAM role, assuming that everyone knows what IAM is. So let's do something else. Let's look at the tutorial again, right? And let's scroll down because there's a place where they talk about how can I use my custom runners if I want to. So how can I override images and things like that? I think that's what you mentioned a little bit earlier, right? So I can over there see I can override the used image to use ARM instead of whatever. I can decide on using my own fleet. And they do that with tags on the job. So I actually think that it is pretty handy, I would say.
Okay.
And to be honest, I didn't really check on more details. I think one more thing that we can look at, and I hope that I am ready. I'm ready to do that. So maybe let's have a look on the pricing comparison as we did with GitHub last time. And if I'm correct, and dear GitLab marketing, dear CodeBuild marketing, please reach out to me afterwards if I'm correct or not. Can I share my screen, Raphael? So
sure.
let me share my pricing tab, right? So I did the same thing that I did last time for GitHub. In this case, I'm once again assuming 10 builds per day. I'm assuming the average minutes per build, and that calculates then 6,000 build minutes.
Can you sync
I don't know if I can, but I can try to. How do I do that? That's stuff that I never do. Better?
Yeah.
Okay, so assuming that you have used all of your minutes included in your plan, which are pretty high in GitLab, right? So for a premium subscription, you get 10,000 build minutes already, which is a lot. Assuming that you have maxed out on those, now comparing the prices, the pricing page says that for 1,000 build minutes, you're going to pay $10. And then as we're using a medium-sized Linux instance here, we need to multiply this by 2 because that's the cost factor that they have. I then did the magic for Windows and for Mac OS and for the Linux 4 core as well, based on the pricing page that GitLab has, which I can't show now because then I need to re-stop sharing and whatever. But you can look that up on this page down here. So please ignore this one. This is wrong. Use this page if you want to look this up. And then I used the same prices as last time. So this is CodeBuild free tier somewhere in Frankfurt, I believe. And if you compare that, and now I think I need to scroll out a little bit, or at least do something like that, so you can see everything. GitLab actions pricing, whatever. Gets with Linux $220. You would get the same on CodeBuild for $20 and the same on with Lambda ARM for $40, which is kind of a price difference of a lot. With Windows, which is only in beta in GitLab, you get 25% at the end from a cost perspective. And it is kind of interesting. So I really think that if this is true, I hope that someone from GitLab will reach out to me and tell me if I'm wrong. That CodeBuild is really pushing the boundaries of the money that you're going to pay when using this on using GitLab runners on CodeBuild, right? So that's going to be interesting to see how this changes the way that people look at hosted runners from GitLab perspective.
Yeah, that's very interesting because as we saw, it is quite easy to set up your own hosted runners on AWS. And so it would be you have a good decision point to either use the hosted runners from GitLab, which might be more expensive if you're running out of the free tier, and setting it up in AWS would be an easy task. Maybe we can add some automation to that and provide some templates, and then you can always use the cheaper option on AWS directly.
Yeah, and essentially, to be honest, if you regularly fill out service from AWS, you would be able to pay for your build minutes just without paying for anything else, right? So that is it's a pretty interesting take, I would guess.
So you mean it's quite easy to get some AWS credits and then run with them?
Yes. Cool. Raphael, I think we made it through most of the important things. Is there anything else that you think we should talk about on this point?
We need to highlight the limitations of the runner instances quickly. So if we decided to go with the Lambda runtime, but if you need some Docker build jobs run, you need to use the CodeBuild runners. You cannot use the Lambda runtime because the Lambda runtime does not support Docker builds.
That is correct. And then the macOS limitation, I always want to bring it up. So the team also listens to me. The 24 hours commitment is bad there. For other EC2 instances, you get, I think, by minute costs that you're going to pay, right? If you haven't used a reserved instance here. Good. Now we're getting more options in CodeBuild, and I'm missing some Code Catalyst updates, to be honest. So let's see how this goes, right?
I mean, there's happening a big event in 2 months, so maybe something is coming.
That is true. It's only 8 weeks, I learned yesterday. Raphael, do you have your your talk ready already?
I have an opening slide and a closing slide already, but
Cool.
the rest is on a script.
That's a great start then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, now we got also some work to do for our talk. Now, before I let you go, Raphael, I'm still gonna try to fill up my stickers at the end. This is the first one you can pick.
Ooh.
I have this one, and I'm gonna forbid you talking about the story behind this one. And then we have this one.
I'm definitely going with the AWS Game Day Unicorn because I'm a big fan of game days. I organized some in my company where I work for, and I played some great game days in Las Vegas with some friends that are also in the show. And yeah.
And we're gonna play another one this year.
Yeah.
Let's just leave
And
it at that.
there's one requirement if you want to play an AWS game day, you need to have a laptop because it is running in an AWS account. So without a laptop, it might be difficult to solve the challenges.
That is correct. But as of this week, the AWS mobile application supports 15 additional services. So maybe if someone forgets the laptop next time, he could be helping a little bit more than last time.
Cool.
Raphael, thanks again for spending the time and for having some fun and trying this out. And let's hear feedback from the audience. If you're planning to use this, please get back to Raphael or myself. Raphael, I'm going to once again add your Twitter, your LinkedIn, and most importantly, your reInvent planner. Even though this video might not come out before the reserved seating opens, still people can use it afterwards. Thank you so much for spending time with me, Raphael. Bye-bye.
Bye.